Welcome to my channel. In this video you will witness a true story of mine, a real annoying snowstorm. Let's start the story. It was a stormy night in the small town of Willow Creek. The rain hammered against the windows of the old Victorian house, and the wind howled like a banshee. Inside, Sarah anxiously waited for her dinner to arrive. She had ordered from a new food delivery service that promised fast delivery, even in the worst weather. As the clock struck midnight, there was a knock at the door. Sarah's heart skipped a beat. She hesitated for a moment, her hand hovering over the doorknob. Something felt off, but hunger got the best of her, and she opened the door. Standing on the porch was a figure shrouded in darkness, holding a dripping wet bag of food. Sarah couldn't make out any features, just a silhouette against the dim glow of the streetlights. "Your delivery, miss," a raspy voice said from beneath the hood. Sarah took the bag, her fingers brushing against the cold, clammy hand that held it. She thanked the delivery person, who simply nodded and turned to leave. But as they walked away, Sarah noticed something strange about their gait. It was jerky, almost unnatural, like a marionette being controlled by invisible strings. Shrugging off the unease, Sarah closed the door and carried the food to the kitchen. She set it down on the table and opened the bag, the aroma of spices and herbs wafting up to greet her. Despite her earlier apprehension, her stomach growled in anticipation. As she began to eat, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The food tasted strange, like it had been seasoned with something other than spices. She pushed the thought aside, attributing it to her imagination running wild on such a spooky night. But as she took another bite, she felt a sharp pain in her mouth. Spitting out the morsel, she was horrified to see a small, wriggling worm squirming on her plate. Panic surged through her veins as she realized what she had just ingested. Frantically, Sarah rushed to the sink, trying to wash away the taste of decay and filth. But as she looked out the window, she saw something that made her blood run cold. The figure from earlier was standing in her yard, motionless, staring up at her with empty, soulless eyes. Terrified, Sarah stumbled back from the window, her heart pounding in her chest. She fumbled for her phone, desperate to call for help, but it slipped from her trembling fingers and clattered to the floor. Suddenly, there was a loud crash from the kitchen. Sarah froze, her breath catching in her throat. Slowly, she crept back into the room, her eyes scanning the darkness for any sign of movement. And then she saw it. The shadows seemed to coalesce into a swirling mass, twisting and writhing like a living entity. Within seconds, it had formed into the shape of a grotesque figure, its features twisted into a sinister grin. Sarah's scream echoed through the house as the shadowy apparition lunged towards her, tendrils reaching out to ensnare her in its grasp. She stumbled backwards, desperately trying to escape, but it was no use. The darkness enveloped her, swallowing her whole. Hours later, the storm subsided, and the first rays of dawn began to peek through the clouds. The residents of Willow Creek awoke to find Sarah's house eerily quiet, with no sign of life inside. When the authorities arrived, they discovered a scene straight from a nightmare. The furniture was overturned, the walls were splattered with blood, and there was no trace of Sarah anywhere. The only clue to her fate was the open door and the soggy remnants of a food delivery bag lying on the porch. To this day, the people of Willow Creek speak in hushed tones about the mysterious disappearance of Sarah and the horrors that lurk in the darkness of the night. And though the truth may never be known, one thing is certain: sometimes, the things that go bump in the night are far more terrifying than we could ever imagine. This is our story today. If you liked the story, do not forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. We will meet tomorrow, God willing, in a new story.